Shalom, good day, good night, balance to all. We are back again with another exciting episode. We have a special guest with us, D Marble. If you can say something to the siblings.
Oh, hello everyone. I'd like to thank you for having me on. Looking forward to having some positive, uplifting, inspiring conversation with you. Let's do
Excellent,
this.
excellent. Now, D Marble is a trustfully, a lot of the siblings are going to know exactly who we have on, but just to give you an overview, this brother has a pretty large following, I would say, on YouTube. Conducted some significant experiments in the realms of flat Earth. You've got a subscribership of over 40,000, 41,000 and counting. And you've had, I would say, what, maybe four or five pretty much viral videos. Um, the airplane test for me specifically was an excellent eye opener and showed a experiment and a test done with very basic tools, and the evidence was just there. It was pretty much irrefutable. um we're going to go into a lot more detail because D Marble, this brother, is not just a flat earther. He's far from that. He's a well-rounded, and we're going to get into the mind of D Marble, um, and try and pick away at some of these layers and give the world a better understanding of what the hopes, aspirations, and dreams are, and what the ultimate goal for your work.
Hmm.
Um, so if we can start it off, your journey wise, how did you sort of when did you start to stir? What was the point for you where you started to stir conscious wise or truth wise? Was that sort of point in your life, if we can go down that route?
Well, most of my life, not really fit in with society. I'll say that. Wasn't all that popular in high school. Didn't really fit in when I was in the military. I joined the army in 2000. I always felt like something was wrong. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I would just sit back and watch how society was developing, and it always seemed like things were degenerating, like things were getting a little bit worse, step by step, progressively. And from that, I was just like, what's wrong? We have all this technology, time's going by, people getting smarter. There's all these technological developments. Why aren't things getting better? Why aren't we figuring out how to feed people, things like that? And I kind of went from that. It was always in the back of my mind, and the thing that set me off on this journey of discovery that things are really wrong is it was 9/11, like a lot of people. But I didn't look into 9/11 until I got out of the army. I had already been out for a few months, and then I got a hold of some information. First thing I saw was Fahrenheit 9/11 by Michael Moore, and by the end of that, I started asking questions. I got on YouTube and looked up 9/11. That brought me through some other things, got me to the Illuminati, Bilderberg, the Freemasons, all that good stuff that you find on this journey. And then, it just kind of progressed from there. Just looking into different conspiracy theories and all, or what they call conspiracy theories, which turn out to be conspiracy fact.
Yes. You raise a good point with that. Uh, that is a very broad term used these days to almost anything which is an oppositional sort of stance is automatically labeled as a conspiracy theory, and automatically whoever thinks that way has a tinfoil hat, and you know puts sellotape off for cameras on their mobile devices, etc. Which isn't, I wouldn't say, is a bad thing to do, but
Well, hey, you also got to consider there's a picture that Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, CEO of Facebook, or the guy who came up with whatever, Zuckerberg, he's got his
yes.
camera covered up on his laptop. So if he does it, why not? Why shouldn't the rest of us do it? So he must be a crazy conspiracy theorist too, if you think about it.
I think the difference is there, though, D, is that he's as you say, he's in a very high position. He's got a lot of money, so I don't think anyone really cares about the reasons to why he's putting a sellotape over his cameras. He's just a rich, eccentric billionaire in
Yeah,
people's
yeah,
eyes.
right, right. But we're all being
Yeah.
watched one way or another, though. That's the thing. So it's all about personal privacy, security, and all that. So it's all good. But we're all just trying to navigate this world as best we can at this point.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And just on that point as well, I think there's been multiple um news reports on mainstream media, specifically. I think the last one was where Samsung was saying that yes, we are recording via our smart televisions, and that information is going to a server in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think there was a popular conspiracy host, I guess you'd call him, Alex Jones, who a number of years ago was talking about recording of conversations and your televisions are spying on you, your cable boxes, etc.
Hmm.
And a few years, it's now come to light. I mean, it's
Right. And this is a interesting time in history because, all the people that you know, like years ago, folks were saying, "Oh, this person's crazy. This person's out of control. This guy's a conspiracy theorist." All this information is coming out through social media and the internet platforms like YouTube, and now people are like, they were a conspiracy theorist, but now they're right because it's like all the facts and all the evidence is coming out through like WikiLeaks and independent media. So, we're being vindicated with truth coming out. So I like that. I get to be part of this whole thing. So it's an exciting time.
it definitely is. I mean, what sort of pushback have you had? As you've mentioned, you've gone through various chains of thought in regards to your study, Illuminati wise, Bilderberg, the usual realms where you would go from when you stir and slightly start to wake up, etc., and you start to sort of research. How have your sort of siblings and sort of friends, how have they sort of received your enlightenment and your imparting information across?
Well, I mean, we all go through these different. We kind of all go through the same things when we come across this information because society's been programmed to believe the official story coming from the news media. So when you come back and, well, it's not just from the media; it's from the educational system and from just society in general and what we've been programmed to believe. So when you come out and you say things that are contradictory to the mainstream story, people that are still plugged into the matrix, as it were, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. So, you get to a response. Some people are going to ridicule. Some people are going to say, okay, and then they're going to back away slowly and you never hear from them again. Family can, snotty a while or just kind of push you off to the side and not want to talk about it. But my family, personally, everybody's cool now. I've come to a point, luckily, where they my parents, they get it too. As far as the alternative information that I put out, yeah, hasn't been that bad. It's a lot of pushback from strangers, but can't really.
Okay. And it's down to each individual really. Once certain people obtain truth, it's like truth is so like infectious. You want to share the truth with, and it takes a bit of time for you to really learn how to, number one, present the information in an
Mhm.
intelligible way so people can understand it and not just throwing information and facts and figures. And just sometimes just giving them a jewel and leaving it and allowing them to sort of, to 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 think on it over a week, over a month period, and they might then come back and say, "Do you remember when you said that to me? I actually looked at that." And then they've done it themselves. Then you've planted that seed, kind of thing. So it's about the approach, and I think there's so many different personalities within Flat Earth, and within the sort of quote unquote alternative, let's say alternative media or alternative views. Yeah.
I like that.
Um, everyone has very different sort of personalities. You've got some who are very wacky, quite out there. You seem to come with, and I think this is why most people get what you're doing because you don't try and overcomplicate things. You try and make it as simple as possible, and your demeanor is quite sort of down to earth as well. You don't seem to be someone who is really caught up into ego kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I think again that lends to presenting the information. Um, so I think based upon that, how would you how would you gain more gain more followers, I guess, or more people to the information? What's your plan? Because at at the moment with YouTube and their policies, etc., and how videos are listed, I'm pretty sure you're experiencing it just like many YouTubers are experiencing, as maybe a fall in the subscriptions and maybe videos taking a little bit of time to get the numbers it usually would get. So well, what are the sort of current things you're doing, and what things are you sort of experiencing that in that side?
Oh well, the the difficulties with censorship these days. Well, the thing is, I get messages from people all the time saying that they have to resubscribe to my channel. They're not getting notifications when I go live. That, hey, I got unsubbed again. I clicked the bell. I wanted my notifications, and I haven't been getting notifications. I get these messages all the time. Um, I've been getting messages on Facebook lately about censorship as far as flat Earth memes, just shorthand messages and things. But the cool thing about flat Earth and what a lot of the mainstream tries to discourage us from, in my opinion, is that we've taken it offline now. We're not just an online thing, an online clique of people. What my message is for the most part, and I try to lead by example with that, is let's take it offline. If you can be active to some way, then do that. It can be something as simple as you go out to dinner and then, the host or whoever your server was, they bring the ticket. You write it out and swipe your card and all that, and you leave a little research flat Earth on there or something. Something as simple as
Hmm.
that. Me personally, I have on my van written a three-part message, and it's basically 2 plus 2. All right, it's the Earth's surface is 71% water. Bodies of water do not curve, and I say bodies of water. That means um, a significant accumulation of water, which is generally lake, stream, river, ocean, seas, things like that, and rarely ponds, puddles, wetlands, smaller bodies like that. But that's why I specify bodies of water. So that's the definition of bodies of water. And I say bodies of water don't curve. That's the second line, meaning every time that you've seen water in a significant accumulation, the surface is always generally flat. Just like in a
Hmm.
bathtub, it's flat. In a swimming pool, it's flat. A lake, and then you go stand on the beach at the ocean, and from side to side, you look left to right, you just see a flat horizon of water that comes up to your eye level. So the second line is bodies of water don't curve. Third line is therefore the earth is flat. Because if most of the earth is water, and you know that water doesn't curve, then I mean, what else can we conclude? So that I have that written on both sides of my van, and I'm driving around town all the time, and I get people taking pictures of my van every day. People waving at me in traffic. Sometimes I get people flipping me off. Sometimes I get people screaming at me. It's a trip. Seriously, there was one time I was driving from Bellevue to Seattle across this long bridge. Ironically, we're on a long bridge and it's like a few feet above the water, and there's water on either side. So I'm just looking off to the side and I'm seeing all this level water on each side. And then there's a elderly gentleman and his wife is in the passenger seat, and she's like, oh, I'm like, lady, what the heck? So I got flipped off by somebody's grandma. That was awesome.
Was this like slow moving traffic deal?
No, dude, we were going like 50, and she just had to get that middle finger off to me, man. It's okay though.
Wow.
You know, people are sensitive about this topic. I can tell you that. It's a trip.
It shakes the sensibilities, doesn't it? Because it just shakes the whole foundation. Because once you actually, you start to question it, and if you genuinely question it, and depending on how much time you take, you do have questions. And when and that's the difference between people who are open to, to be challenged on what they may have thought to be true, what they've held true for maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It's the
Mhm.
people who are open-minded to say, let me listen to the other side. I mean, I agree with it, but at least I've heard it and I can maybe present a different view or be challenged on my own view.
Yes.
It's, I think I think we're in as you say, we're in a wonderful time where people are, I guess, the younger generation, and some of the older generation with the access to technology, they are picking up these little bits of information, but at the same time, the information is not valuable anymore. So it's
Yes.
there. Oh yeah, right, oh I know about some of the main things people say is yeah, oh I'm awake. I'm no longer asleep because I know about the Freemasons and I know about Bilderberg, and that
Yeah.
seems to be like the main sort of talking point. But it goes a lot bigger than that. That's the surface stuff, guys. You
Hmm.
know, it goes a lot bigger. We can look into the food industry. We can look into big pharma. We can
Oh
go
man.
into with this. It touches every facet of our lives. So it's this secret society thing. It's nice to get some information on the Jesuits and Illuminati, etc. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's like a weekend's worth of research, etc. But there's a lot more to this. There is a lot more to this big picture, and I think now flat Earth for the past few years now has been so big. It's now opening another door to which most people, I guess, when they wake up, I guess they start to question religion and stuff.
Hmm.
And many people who sort of going to alternative media, they tend to then shun mainstream sort of religions, i.e., like your Christianity, Catholicism, etc. In view of looking at the Michael Tazarians with this New Age movement and all of that kind of thing. But then now you get into flat Earth, and you think, well, is that not pointing to like intelligent design or like maybe a specific creator who did all of these things rather than a quote unquote big bang and the chances of a big bang and then single cell organisms happening which then create complex life is the chances of me winning the lottery every week for the rest of my life. It's like virtually impossible for these
Right.
things. So it's
Yeah.
the bigger picture, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, flat Earth. I believe it just kind of creeps into every other area. I love how it's kind of all encompassing, and I believe that one of the main reasons that the shape of the Earth is hidden from the population is to steer them away from the idea that this place was designed, that there is a creator. Because I mean, if you just sit down and think about the idea of the Big Bang, like you said, an explosion out of nothing creates everything, and then single-celled organisms evolve into humans. The way first it started off as single-celled organisms, then it's these little uh, microscopic organisms in the sea, and then these invertebrates crawled onto the land and evolved into this, and then evolved into this serpent, lizard, or whatever it is, evolved into a monkey, and then monkeys turn into people, but there are still monkeys around. That makes no sense if you actually think about it. But I mean, I use the analogy like the idea of an explosion out of nothing creating such perfect order. That's like setting a bomb off in a junkyard and then going back later and you find a perfectly constructed MacBook Pro in the middle of the rubble. Like, what? you know, um, such complexity, such complexity
Yeah,
can't come from chaos and
chaos.
from an explosion of nothing. And there are people who still argue this, which makes absolutely no sense. If you actually sit down and think about the idea of you come from something smaller than this, and in this little egg and sperm, what comes from that, all the information, the building of your immune system, your respiratory system, your skeletal, muscular, your digestive, your nervous system, all these systems in your body work in concert together in such complexity based on a code written in something this small, that comes out of nothing. Are you sure? I'm just that's too much complexity to come from nothing. You know what I mean? Or just an accident. It makes absolutely no sense, in
Yes.
my opinion.
No, in many people's opinion, in people's opinion who haven't even either stumbled across flat Earth, who either reject flat Earth. There are many people who have that hold that exact same view because until they can quote unquote replicate it, i.e., like what they're doing over with that CERN machine, allegedly,
Hmm.
because I
Yeah.
think they're trying to do something totally different with that.
Yep.
It's just all talk. They can
Hmm.
put the CGI graphics on and they can, get wonderfully orators to come on and say these big words and say all this stuff. They can get Neil deGrasse Tyson to
Ah.
speak his stuff.
Yep.
And it's just words, isn't it? It's just words. But when you break it down and let's talk to people as laymen rather than because with all of that sort of stuff, it dazzles people. The PhDs, the doctorates, first of all, that then puts you back at a disadvantage because you think, oh, this person's been throughout, the collegian and gone to a university background, studied, regurgitated certain information to get certain scores, to then have letters at the back of their name. So they're ahead
Yes.
of me.
Yes.
They've invested in their quote unquote miseducation, so they're
Hmm.
ahead of me. So
Yep.
it's an interesting one, isn't it?
It is, and that's kind of what I'm against. I mean, I could actually do that. I could use the lofty words and the you know whole tactic of speaking over people's head, and I could actually speak very articulately and uh, pronounce my words with absolute absolute consistency and all that. But I mean, what I find that more people will understand the message if you don't talk over their head. It just makes more sense. And the thing is like people have a short attention span, and these guys with these lab coats and glasses and the letters after their name and all that, and they're like, oh, this person's smarter than me, and they sound smart, and they're using these big words that I don't understand, so they must be telling the truth, and that's just not the way it is. So that's why I have an approach where people are like, "Hey, you seem like a down to earth guy." I am a down to earth guy, and you keep things so simple. Yeah, because I'm not trying to confuse you with bullcrap. you know?
That's the best way to do. What's the acronym? KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Right, right. Just keep it simple. And the whole idea is what I do. I'm just trying to reach people. Um, and I guess you could say I teach, or I teach or educate, or I just try to get my message across the way that I would want to receive it. I can't stand the arrogance of someone using these big words and presenting these things like, well, this is this, this is that, and yes, haha, I'm the authority here. I'm like, no, I'm just going to talk to you like a regular person, and then I'm just going to tell you what I think about it, and just leave it there. Take it or leave it, But I'm just going to give you the facts clear and clean cut. So it's all good.
Definitely. Eat the meat and spit out the bones. That's the best way, isn't it?
That's it. That's
So, flat Earth wise, who was, if you can remember, or who has, I guess this is maybe a two-parter. What was one of the videos that you sort of maybe turned you on to flat Earth?
Oh, well, there was a compilation of Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues.
Ah,
That was the first thing I saw on Flat Earth. It was after my girlfriend at the time and I were watching Under the Dome on Netflix. It was a story about or a show about a small town had this invisible dome.
yes,
Yeah,
excellent
yeah,
show.
yeah. So we watched that show, and you know how you go on Netflix binge, and then you're like, all right, now what? So we go on YouTube, and I type in Under the Dome in the search, and then this video comes over. It looks like it's out in space. I was like, that looks weird, but we click on that because the title of it was Under the Dome, and it was Mark Sargent's Clues. So yeah, we ended up watching that, and you know, we watched it like all weekend because he made so many different points, and yeah, that was the first thing I heard. So Mark Sargent was the guy that woke me up. I looked into ODD, a lot of other people, Rob Skiba,
Yes.
you know, a lot of folks on Flat Earth. You know, Eric Dubay. I watched some of his stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, not a whole. You know, I mean, he's done a lot of work. He's put in a lot of information. He was one of the people who were at the forefront of reinvigorating the Flat Earth movement. But you know, the message is kind of monotone. Not really my style. You know, good to sleep to, but you know,
Yeah. He has got a
I
very different style.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's very very relaxing. A lot of people
Relax.
like his stuff, but I was
Mhm.
looking for someone that kind of looked more like me. And the guy that I found was Dave Murphy. He's in the UK also.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
indeed. I'm
yeah.
trying to reach out to Dave. I'm definitely trying to reach out to Dave.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know. See, yeah, I'm saying he's gonna be at the Flat Earth conference in November out here in Denver. Yeah, at the end of the year. So I'm looking forward to meeting him. Actually, he was one of the people that I look up to in this whole thing. He covers a whole lot of other stuff. So he was one of the
He
people that
certainly
I
does.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, Dave Murphy's cool. His son, Red Flag Media, he's on there too, doing Flat Earth. But yeah, I watch a lot of people's stuff. But you know, Mark Sargent, he was the guy that woke me up essentially.
Yeah, for myself, I guess it's pretty much exactly the same thing as you just said. I think it was the Flat Earth Clues was the first thing. Then I think I stumbled onto Eric Dubay. I've always listened to Rob Skiba anyway because I think he's an excellent researcher. So
Mhm.
when I heard he stumbled onto Flat Earth, I thought, oh, let me hear what he's got to say from a more of a biblical sort of background,
Yes.
and biased of sorts. And as you've highlighted, I think one thing for me, which I thought, I was like, well, where are the heavily melanated people who are talking about flat Earth?
Yep.
And then I found D Murphy. I was like, oh, great. And then obviously I saw his stuff about urine therapy and all the yeah. I said, wow, I mean, he explains it very well. I'm still kind of not sure about it.
Right. Right.
Um, but it's
Like,
explained very well, and I can understand it. Um, I think that's a little bit more years for me to maybe even
right. Right.
experiment.
You're like, yeah, I'm not quite there yet. Like
Yes,
it sounds
exactly.
good. He has a good argument for it, and it's.
Mm.
I mean, I get it. There's a lot of benefits. He said, you know, it helped him lose a lot of weight, and he grew his hair back and things. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's great, man. I'm not there yet. Love him to death. He's a good guy. He's a good man. You can tell. He's got a heart of gold. I can tell. But
Yes.
you know, he has a heart to help people, and that's all right. And but yeah, I'm not there on the urine therapy route. But one of these days, I'll get around to it, hopefully, and we'll see.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, he's another thing that he's also stumbled across. He's been looking into the Bible and stuff. Have you been looking at some of that material?
Yeah, yeah,
About
absolutely.
the
I've seen a lot about that. The history of how we all ended up where we are. Um,
yes.
those type of situations. Yeah, I've looked in.
Do you lean to the Murphy's sort of thoughts in regards to the whole Deuteronomy 28, 68, etc.?
It does make a lot more sense concerning what's going on these days, and how we're treated in society as melanated people, and yeah,
Mm,
it all makes a whole lot of sense, to
it
be honest.
does. It sure does. It sure does. Oh man. So yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's going to be. I take it. Are you guys going to do any collaborations whilst he comes over to that conference in Denver?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be cool. I mean, I'm just looking forward to meeting with him, hanging out, taking some pictures and all that. Cause he's one of my, one of the people I look up to in this whole thing. There was another guy, Vegan Warrior. He's another brother on YouTube. Shout out to Vegan Warrior. He talks
Yes.
flat Earth on here, and yeah, I have him on my channel some of the times, and we'll have these discussions. But yeah, he was another guy I look up to. But yeah, I would like to collab on something, or at least get him in for an interview. I've been meaning to do that for a while. I just keep getting caught up in these projects.
Get it done, D. Get it done. That's the
Gotta
only
get it done.
that's my only advice. Yeah, definitely. So talking of experiments and stuff, what are we looking at? What we working on at the moment?
Oh, well, at the moment, man, you know what? I really don't know what else to do as far as experiments. Because, I mean, one I did recently, I don't know if you heard about this one. It was a laser test that
Oh yes.
myself and a friend of mine, Mark Foster, we, went out to the Puget Sound here in the Northwest. There's a place that he was at on one side of the water at Point Defiance at Owen Beach, and I was at a place called Saltwater State Park on the beach over there. And he fires a laser across 10.3 miles of water, and I mean the beam hit me on the other side, and the camera picked it up. Luckily, I was live streaming. I had my phone, and they could see the laser beam from across
Wow.
the water, and I mean it. Everybody saw it in real time, and that pretty much proves that the surface of the water is flat because, according to spherical trigonometry, between the two of us was supposed to be about 70.72 feet of bulging water or
Yes.
hidden height between us. I was supposed to be hidden behind the curvature. I wasn't. There was no way I was supposed to see that laser, regardless of atmospheric refraction, regardless of the height of the laser, which was only it was less than 10 feet or anything like that. Beam divergence, light dispersion, none of that really factors in. The fact of the matter is, I shouldn't have been able to see that blue light from across that water. Period. So that's
Mm,
proof positive over 10 miles of flat water. Like if the water doesn't bulge over 10 miles, when does it bulge? 20, 30, 50? I don't think so.
yes.
Sea level is sea level. Period. So I think that was proof. I think that was proof enough. But I'm always looking to do something else. We're talking about doing a couple other laser tests on different areas. If we can get a laser strong enough, because
Yes.
I found a couple places on the water that's like one of them's like 21 miles, another one's like 29.3 miles, something like that, and I'm like, yeah, we need to get out here and do this, but the range of his laser is only 12.8 miles, so we gotta get a
Mm,
stronger laser apparently. So it's all good. We'll figure something out. But just I'm just trying to put this information out here, do these experiments, and bring it back to the people so they can have a stronger argument. Because I said this at a flat Earth meetup a couple weeks ago. Essentially, what I do, I'm just building my argument for flat Earth and just sharing what I come up with everybody else. So somebody's like, "Oh, the Earth is a globe." I'm like, "Well, not according to this laser test that I just did." Well,
So in
plain,
essence,
yeah,
it's a it's a new version of a peer-reviewed piece of work in essence. What you're doing.
You could say that. You could say that because I mean everything that I do, as far as flat Earth goes, as far as these experiments and observations go, I'm doing this so I can document it for my own arguments when people come to me, and then give it to the community so they can strengthen their arguments and or their conviction, or proofs and evidence that the earth is flat. So they'll be able to drop links to my videos when they get into a discussion with somebody that doesn't quite get it, or say, hey ma, here's this, what do you think about that, just to get people thinking, man. That's all. Just
That's pretty
sharing my
cool.
experience.
See. And what the airplane one, the famous airplane one. I mean, that's genius, but it's also, I mean, I'm surprised no one hasn't done it before.
You know what? Actually, a few months after I did it, I found out that Rob Skiba did something pretty similar to that. And I believe he had a spirit level and he had a level app on his phone where he did kind of the same thing, but I guess it didn't it didn't get the same amount of traction. And I heard he did that a while before I did, and I apologized to him at the Flat Earth conference. I was like, "Hey, man, I didn't mean to steal your idea. I wasn't trying to take the spotlight or anything. It's just, I was just out. Look, and I say this all the time. I'm just a guy, and I'm just out doing stuff. But the way that experiment came about was there were some guys that I was talking to at work. So I got really into flat Earth, and the way that we all do when we get into this, we're like wanting to talk to people about it. Like, yo, did you know that the Earth is flat? People are like, are you crazy? So you end up wanting to talk about it, basically to awaken people to talk about it. But then there's a ulterior motive. We also want to have somebody that we can discuss this with offline. So I'm talking to these guys, and I'm doing my research. I'm watching videos and all that, and writing down information, and I'll go meet up with these guys on their lunch break or at one of their 15-minute breaks, and I'll go in and I'll talk flat Earth with them for about 10 minutes and say, okay, guys, this is what I learned today, and we're having a discussion back and forth. And there was a meme that I saw on Facebook, I believe, and it was like these four things won't work on a globe. It was like a periscope, a sundial, level, and it was one other thing that I can't think. A gyroscope, I believe. And I'm like, well, I don't have a periscope. I don't have a sundial. I don't own a gyroscope, but I can go get a spirit level. So I go get a spirit level the next day or that afternoon. I bring it in the next day, and I'm like, okay, look, guys, we're in Tacoma right now. If I can put this thing on the ground and the bubble is center, and I drive out to Portland and I sit this thing on the ground and this bubble is still centered, I just drove 2 hours away. There should have been some kind of curvature between here and there. So how does that work on a globe? I mean, we all know that how a bubble level works. If you're going over curvature, then the bubble's going to shift from left to right. Everybody knows how a level works. We all know. So I was like, well, how could I show that though? I could drive there, but I would need some way to keep the thing level while I'm driving there. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. But I remembered that I have a flight going out to Georgia because I was going to see my daughter for her birthday that weekend, and we hung out for a few days when I flew out there, but I still had the idea in my head to do it. So I took my level with me, and I actually did a test on the way out there, and I set it on the tray, and just while I was flying. So I sit the level on the tray, and the bubble's centered, and I'm just sitting here looking at it like, it's not moving, I'm like, oh snap, it's not moving. So I already knew what was going to happen before I did the experiment and posted it, but I just had to get it together because, to date, that was like the most comprehensive video that I had done on YouTube, because I had done a few videos before that, but they were like, I did one like on some political stuff, giving food to homeless people, stuff like that. Workout videos. I used to do physique competitions, and then a couple little short 3-minute flat Earth videos that I had uploaded. But this was like the one that I put the most work into as far as trying to gather information and just put it out there. And I actually
Yeah.
just made that video for a small group on Facebook. But I mean, that was the inspiration behind it. Just talking to the guys at work, and then just kind of it evolved from there. And here we are. You know,
Mm.
fast forward. You know, people started attacking me after that, and I just started making videos defending my position. So that's it. People like my style, so I just kept making videos. You know, responding.
That's it. That's it. So when you pulled it out, the spirit level the first time, what was were the passengers looking at you strangely, like asking you what are you doing or anything like that?
Well, no, no. Actually, the first time I did it, I think it was dark. It was like a red eye flight, and I just turned on the light. It's like most everybody was asleep. I turned the light on. I propped it on there. I took like my ID card, my debit card to get it perfectly leveled on the tray table. And then I'm just sitting there watching it, and you know nobody was next to me when I did it, and or if they were next to me, they were asleep or not even paying attention. And if they would have asked, I would have said, I'm actually running a quick experiment. I just want to see if the bubble's gonna move. And I'll explain this to people on the plane all the time. I got no problem talking on, airplanes about flat Earth because I'm like, you can look out of the window and you can see that there's no curvature. They're like, what? It looks curved. I'm like, look out of the window.
Does it?
Let me see. I'm like, really? Because we're flying over water right now. I want you to tell me when the water kind of curves downward. Let me see.
Mm.
But I'm talking about this stuff all the time. But yeah, no, I get crazy looks, but nah, everybody's pretty cool. And the actual test, um, the one I recorded and put on YouTube, the ladies on either side of me, they were asleep the whole time. So
Yes, I
they don't.
noticed.
Yeah, yeah, they got no idea. They had no idea what was going on.
They famous now though. They famous.
I know, right? And that lady's little dog that wouldn't sit still. I wonder what happened to that dog. Sometimes.
Yeah. It's crazy I mean I don't know what happens over here, but I'm sure I don't think we can carry dogs onto planes in the UK.
I thought that was really strange because it's like she got onto the plane and I'm like sitting there in the middle and she had Squeeze next to me and then I look and she's got this bag and then she pulls a dog out. I'm like, a dog? I'm like, you got a whole dog on the plane, okay? And then the dog's like just sitting on her lap, and she covers the dog with a blanket and is trying to sleep and keep the dog still. I'm like, that's craziness, but
It
whatever.
is. But
Yeah,
is that normal though, D Marvel? Is that a normal thing? I didn't know you're allowed to do that on a plane.
I I guess so. Apparently that's a thing. I'm like,
Wow.
all right, all right.
I bet. Well, there should be. Well, trustfully, you know what? Knowing these airlines, these scandalous airlines and stuff, they'll probably charge. They'll say, okay, yeah, you can bring your little handbag dog on, but it's going to cost you half the price of a seat or something like that.
Yep. No doubt.
Wow. That
That's
is
what they do.
absolute. Yeah, man, that's crazy.
Yep.
Okay, okay. So it seems like it's a good time to be in the realms of flat Earth in essence because the movement's definitely growing. The numbers are steadily improving.
Mhm.
Are you finding that you're getting recognized by members of the public being out and about?
Yeah, yeah. I am getting a little bit more of that. I'll be in traffic now. Just rolling through the neighborhood, going from one place to another. Every now and then, somebody will honk their horn, give me a thumbs up. I got rolling with my windows down. Somebody's like, "Yo, D Marble." I'm like, "Hey, what's good? Keep it flat."
Oh yeah, the
Just
flat.
doing that stuff. So yeah, I'm getting a little more recognition around here. But I'm local and I have a job, around the area, and I'm usually around the same area. My van's really high profile actually.
Yes.
This guy's got this Chevy G20 with flat Earth stuff written on the side and a big old tire cover on the back that says "Research Flat Earth." So yeah, people recognize me around here. I've been doing this for about a year. a little over a year actually. So
Yeah.
it's all
We're
good.
moving, man. We're moving. We're definitely moving in that
Yeah.
direction.
Oh yeah.
Um, I can see that Van doing a tour soon, a
Oh.
real big tour.
Hey, look! If this job cuts me loose, I'm going cross country, man.
This is it, man. The D Marvel tour, 16 city state tour.
Hey, that's it. Hey, I'll start it off. All right, I'm going up to Seattle just to hang out for a couple days. We got some meetups. Then I'm going to head down to Portland. Then I'm going through California and swing it back around, go through Nevada, Arizona. I might do a zigzag across the U.S. just hitting up different places, and it'll be fun. We'll see. We'll see.
Uh, I mean, and you seem to be attending. I mean, you attend quite a lot of the surf conferences. You pretty much attend. You attend what pretty much all of them from what I've seen.
Just about. I didn't get to go to the recent one up in Canada because there was one in Edmonton just
Yes.
recently, a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to go to that one, but it was between going to that conference and going to Alaska because there was a project I wanted to do and I had an idea. There was a video where some guy went to Alaska and filmed the sun. During Alaska summer, that there's a point where the sun doesn't set for
Yes.
like a couple months, and somebody got a time lapse of the sun just basically going up and down over the horizon, basically following the sun in a 360 while it makes its circuit over the North Pole or around the North Pole. And I was like, that looks pretty cool, man. I want to go. I want to go get a time lapse. So, I took some time off work, and actually, because I went to Alaska, that landed me about 18 hours in the hole as far as vacation time goes. I get an email from my site supervisor. He's like, "Hey, you gotta keep a better eye at track of your time, man, because you're 18 hours in the hole. So don't submit any vacation requests for a while because I'm not approving them." I'm like, all right, because I mean, it's like I'll go visit my children and all that, and then there was a thing I went to South Korea because they flew us out for a conference. It was myself, Nathan Thompson, Clark Bernard. Back in March, they flew us out to South Korea, and that was a good
I
time. That was
missed
awesome.
that.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
So who flew out? The actual people did a conference and basically around you guys as being guests and flew you over, or was you special guest at the conference kind of thing?
Oh, we were special guests at the conference, man. It was cool. We were like rock stars over there, man. It was dope. I'm telling you.
Wow,
Yeah,
that
it
is
was cool. Yeah,
excellent.
man. Yeah, we got the rock star treatment. Like they handled the airfare, flew us over there, put us up in a hotel. My man Kim Cook Ill put the whole thing together. He was driving us around, taking us to eat at different places. Like I said, put us in a room. We got suits, and then we also got. That was like my first time being paid to speak at a conference. That was my first paid speaking engagement. So I was like, oh man,
Excellent.
I'm like, we made it, baby. you know?
Yeah, top of the world, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Now that is so. Did they like reach out to you like directly, or was it like how did it all that materialize kind of thing?
Oh man. I'll try to do the story quick. So, excuse me. So the story is Kim Cook Il. He's a flat earther in South Korea, and he's pretty hardcore. He and someone else they wrote a flat Earth book, and that got a lot of publicity over there. Basically, the news called him in for an interview. They interviewed him, and then when they aired it, they basically tried to make him look crazy, like they do us, calling them conspiracy theorists and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the mainstream media. It's fake news over in South Korea, just like it is in
Hmm.
the U.S., just like it is over there. So because I mean they take it pretty hard when you dishonor someone over in Asia. It's taken a little differently. So he internalized that and he was pissed. So he reached out to a guy on Facebook, that guy Clark Bernard, about putting together his own Flat Earth conference, and that's what he did. So he's like, "Hey, I'm going to put together a Flat Earth conference in March. I'd like for you to show up. If you can find anybody else, you know, I'll fly them out and we can make this happen." So Clark reached out to a few other people. He didn't get anything back from them. They were busy or for whatever reason, and I was like, "I'll do it." I've never been to South Korea. Yeah, if they fly me out, sure, we can make a weekend out of it, whatever, man. I'm like happy-go-lucky, like, yeah, dude, whatever, and so I mean, that was it, man. He just reached out to me, and I'm like, yeah. So I mean, up until like a couple weeks before, I was like, yeah, we ain't going no South Korea. Like, it seemed too good to be true. Like, they're gonna fly us out here for a Flat Earth conference and then pay us. Get out of here, man. So I didn't believe it up until a couple of days before. I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna fly us out here. I'm like, let me pack it. Let me start packing my bags. I didn't pack them until like 48 hours before the flight. But I mean, it all worked out. It was a cool experience, man. I look forward to doing that again. If he does one next year, I'm going. I'm going. It was cool. Everybody was really nice.
Yeah.
Everybody was really nice and very receptive.
What was the food and stuff like? How did you find the food?
Oh, the food was so good. Oh, they took such good care of us. The situation, like the first night we were there, we went to this one Korean restaurant, and I don't know if they do that like all the time or we just went to one special spot, but we would sit down at this huge table. So there's like 10 of us, right? And what happens is, it's like the ladies would bring out a few trays and they would sit out. They would give everybody a bowl of rice, and then they would bring out the fixings here, and they would set it up on one side of the table, bring the same things to the other side of the table. Okay, and then they would leave and just be gone for a few minutes. So we're all got our chopsticks and we're digging out of this bowl, we're dipping this in here, we all got our individual plates, we're all just going at it. And then after a little bit, they'll come around with another tray of food, different small food items, and they'll put this stuff on here, that stuff on this table, and then they'll bring out another tray and feed the other. And they did this like 4 different times. They like kept bringing different types of food out, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely a place on my destination list. I definitely wouldn't mind traveling to, just to see the culture and stuff, and just it's very neat and orderly out there from what I hear, isn't it?
Yes, but I would not want to drive. I would not want to drive while I was over there. I was glad to be a passenger while we were over there, man, because the traffic is crazy. We saw 5 or so accidents over there because, I mean, people were like speeding and they're like cutting people off. It's like, it was nuts. I would not, dude. I would have a heart attack trying to drive in South Korea. I'm telling you, especially in Seoul, man. It was nuts, but it's all good. It was fun. It was a learning experience. It was something that I'll never forget. And man, if I could do that again, I'd do it. I'd totally do it.
It's all about those experiences, isn't it? Ultimately, seeing different cultures, seeing different people, different places, adding to your spiritual wellness. Ultimately, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I would say, based upon what you've said, it was successful. So I see no reason why it's not going to get bigger and bigger. And with 2019, trustfully, when there's another Flat Earth UK, the offer is going to be again for more US guests to be coming over and stuff, because it should be an international thing. It shouldn't just be the US doing their thing, and everyone should be all one with providing the information and hosting these events and stuff, just to get it out there really, and to mingle and to share ideas, because it's good to do it via the internet and stuff, but to meet people in person and to really have something structured. That's what it's about, building those bonds, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I wanted to go to the one in the UK too. I'm like, yeah, vacation time, man. Vacation time. That's my issue. It's not the financial issue. It's just a matter of the time that I have available to do these things. So, this job is kind of cramping my style, man. I can tell you that. But we'll see what happens.
watch this space, man. As you said, you're only a year plus into this something. So into this thing. So I can see something. I can see the calling. Well, we know what the calling is already. So it's just down to when you feel comfortable to say, okay, it's my time to fully be on this.
Yeah. Yep. And that'll be it. That'll be when I strike off on my own. I'm like, one of two things is gonna happen. Either one, I'm gonna decide that okay, I've had enough. I got enough money saved up. I got a plan to do something else, and I can execute now when I'm comfortable. Or something's gonna go wrong, and they're gonna say, all right, we don't need you anymore. I'll be like, all right, well, let me go execute what I got going on. In the
Yes.
meantime, I'll continue, doing what I can from this end and saving money. And well, I'm anxious to see what happens from here.
Definite, man, definite. I mean, you bring a fresh sort of outlook and approach to the flat Earth thing. To be fair, people who are curious and maybe aren't too scientifically minded really get a lot out of the information, and obviously Mark's flat Earth clues as well. There are a lot of people providing excellent sort of content. Some are very heavy in regards to science and presentation style, etc., and which can be way over some people's heads. But it's good that you've got that wide mixture of people who are quite biblical based, other people who try and simplify things. And I think that's the best thing to do, to try and keep it as simple as possible. Where needed, we definitely need to sort of involve quote unquote science rather than scientism. Um, to get the information out, it's all about having the opportunity to have a different viewpoints. That's what it's all about. Getting the
Hmm.
truth out there. Um, and seeing how we can, as people, as mankind, as humanity, can become better. Ultimately, that's what I think. That's what everyone's goal is, isn't it?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. That's my goal. If we can all come together and just figure this out, because I look at this like this is the big one. And there's a lot of big ones, but I'm like, okay. So here's the thing. In the alternative information community, I don't want to say conspiracy or truther community or whatever. In the alternative ideological community, we say that the whole world's a stage, meaning that we've been deceived because these politicians, they're actors, these CEOs, they're actors. They're pretending that they have the best interest at heart for the citizens and all that, but their actions say something totally different. So we say that the whole world is a stage. These wars, the fiat currency system, the religious structures, even. Um, so we look at that and we're like, okay, there's deception there, and in all these other places. But then they lied to us about the stage itself. That's where flat
Mm,
Earth comes in. We're like, okay, the whole world's a stage. It literally is. They even lied to us about the stage where all this is where all this is taking place. So, I look at this as like the easiest thing to explain to people to get them to realize all the other stuff. So I just use this as a gateway for information, man. I'm excited. I'm glad to take part in this whole thing, and I like being able to be the guy that'll make things simple and kind of be the ambassador for the younger, melanated generation of flat earthers taking a first look at this thing, because that's part of why I have the image that I portray. I'm the black guy. I keep braids because the stereotype is that a black
yes.
man with braids is like the scariest, most dangerous criminal thug or whatever that you could see, and the mainstream media puts it off as a guy that looks like me is no doubt in a gang. Is like an unsavory character. You probably don't want to hear anything they have to say. We can't speak clearly, can't articulate a point, probably will hold you up at gunpoint. But once they hear what I'm saying and look past the appearance, they're like, well, wait a minute, this guy's making a lot of sense, but he looks like what? So it kind
Yes.
of it kind of fries their circuit board when they see
Good.
me and then they listen to me. So I also have a multifaceted attack. I'm trying to break through that stereotype
Yes.
where people don't see a black guy with a beard and braids as a scary individual that they need to avoid at all costs. Like it's not even like that. You know, I'll actually get the shirt off your back, off my back, if you needed it. You know, I'm one of the nicest, best friends that somebody can have if you know you get to know me a little bit. But you know, it's all good. That's just part of what I do. I'm just glad to be part of this thing. Like I said, man.
Thank you, sibling, for that, specifically what you've just said there, because that's so important. That's so important for people, and we all do it, unfortunately, as humans, mankind, whatever you want to say. We all judge people, we all prejudge people, but it's how that's done because we need to do that to be safe and to be careful. But as
Hmm.
you've highlighted, just because you've got a beard and braids, that doesn't mean that you're a thug, a criminal, and you're going to kill, rape, and murder people.
Right.
It's far from the point. It's about, okay, that's what's been presented to me physically. I know what the
Yes.
media presents to me in that respect. How is this person going to interact with me? Okay, great. You don't fall in line with that blatant stereotype. Great, we can move on, kind of thing. So
Hmm.
that is most definitely needed. We need more black males to present themselves in a fashion where it's not being that, falling into that sort of box and, I can't articulate myself. I'm going to act in this kind of way. There are plenty of people, unfortunately, who have to, I wouldn't say have to, who unfortunately have fell into that trap. But for every one of those type of individuals you may come across, there's 10 other black males who look like them, but do not act like them. So that
Exactly.
is key. That is very key. Thank you, D Marble, on that. Um,
Yeah,
what
I
else?
do that. I do that on purpose too. I totally do that on purpose because I'm like, okay, black guy, braids, a beard, and I'm always wearing a black shirt or a hoodie. You know, so I mean, yeah. Like like most of the time, if most people saw me on the street, they'd be like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
he might hurt me. It's a black guy with braids and a black hoodie." But you know, to be able to walk into a room or a building, and this is how I presented at the Flat Earth conference. I'm out there braids with a black T-shirt on, doing my speech in front of 500 people at the Flat Earth conference last year. You know, and everybody was like, "That was a great talk. Thanks, Daryl." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, man. Breaking these barriers down, opening up people's eyes so they can see, a better way, not only for them, but for for the people around them. Because we can only make change within ourselves, which then that ripple effect happens within the people who are close to us, and then it filters out and filters out and filters out. I think that's one of the key factors people need to realize. You have to change yourself first, and once
Yeah.
you've changed yourself, and trust me, that beacon of light that you will then be replicated and replicated, and it becomes a snowball effect. So don't be too overzealous with the information that you hold. Would
Hmm.
be a key point of advice. Sharpen your tools, study to show thyself approved, etc. And gently provide the information, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Impart that information.
Yeah, yeah. You could probably tell that I've kind of softened my approach a little bit. I'm trying to be a little more soft spoken and just give the information. I came out kind of angry because I was being attacked a lot, and I was just
Yeah.
making these videos like, all right, look, dummy, here's what it is. Boom, 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 boom. Get out of my face. There it is. I'm out. You know, that was kind of my attitude at first because, I'm like a regular guy, but all of a sudden I'm getting attacked by a bunch of strangers. And that whole idea of breaking down those stereotypes, trying to soften my approach. I started watching a guy. You probably Akala, right? Um,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I check out his stuff all the time. The way he presents his information,
Mhm.
very very calmly, very articulately. But I mean, he can wrap circles around anybody in the U.S. But then
Indeed.
he can also, talk to you about the history of this and that. And I'm just like, that's a smart
Yeah.
dude, you know.
Yes.
So
Yes.
but at the same time, he's breaking down that stereotype. I'm like, I want to do that. That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah, very inspirational character, man. Akala, yeah. Shout out to that guy.
Definitely, it's interesting that you said that. I would have never have guessed that. I mean, I know he's got a wide reach, most definitely, but I never would have thought that you would have a heard of him or knew what he was about. So, kudos, sibling, to that. Um, before we wrap up, sibling, before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to impart information wise that we may have missed out in this conversation?
There's so much. There's so much more that we could have discussed. A lot of different places we could have gone with this. The thing that I would want to impart is, continue searching for knowledge, continue to do your research. Um, you know, if someone comes along with a different viewpoint, before you argue or oppose what they're saying, just try to be more open-minded and say, okay, so why do you believe that? If anything, instead of saying you're stupid because you believe that, say, well, why do you believe that, or why do you think that? I had a pretty solid conversation with a couple people a few hours ago. I went to the gym, and the guy was like, "So what's up with your shirt?" Because I was wearing one of my flat Earth shirts, and he's like,
Hmm.
"So I heard about that," and I just gave it to him real simple, like. And there's a shirt that I wear. It's like got a flat Earth on one side. It's got a globe on the other side. And I'm like, so on a globe, like all the blue, that's water, right? So I just went through that whole thing, and by the time we got to the end of it, he's like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. I'll check you out on YouTube. I'm like, thank you. And now I just went on about my business. Very, very simple. But the whole key is being open minded and looking at the idea that, you know, put aside your ego and be willing to admit that you can be fooled just like anybody else, you know. And one of the things I say often is I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Just to admit that you can be fooled, admit that you could be wrong, and that's a good spot, good way to open the door to further your knowledge about anything. So there it is.
Wonderful. That's so true. You have to be honest with yourself. Now, I'm not saying to destroy your ego totally, but it needs to be destroyed to a point where you can build it up so you can check ego, so ego
Hmm.
doesn't constantly run self. I,
Yes.
I 1,000% agree with that. Um, I didn't want to go too deep because trust me, we're definitely going to have you back on the Marvel because I just wanted to give people a bit more of an overview of you and just a little bit more in essence. So we'll definitely take it to those wider places and those deeper places on your second round here. If you wouldn't
Cool.
mind, if you could give your contact information, where can people find you, social media wise, etc.
All right. You can find me on Facebook. Name's Daryl, Darryle, Marble, Mable. You can find me at I have a website, dmarble.info. Um, I'm on YouTube. My channel's name is D Marble. That's D dot Marble. Um, that's I'm not that hard to find on Instagram. D underscore Marble underscore Fe at D Marble one on Twitter. That's it, man. You know, those are the places I'm at. I'm a one man band, so I might not be able to get back to everybody, but when it's necessary, yeah, I'll definitely be looking forward to being on a chat with you all again. I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely, sibling. It was wonderful to have you, and thank you very much for all of the content you've produced, and for being the brother that you are. Continue to strive righteous and to continue to put out this information. That's all I can ask for.
100%. I'll continue to do the best that I can to spread this information in ways that people can just get it, keeping it real simple for everyone. So, thank you. Thank you for having me on.